Okay, welcome to my e-bike conversion kit build video. Today I'm going to be talking about how to avoid the mistakes I made while installing this Voilamart 1000-watt conversion kit, so you'll end up with a real turnkey e-bike ready to ride right out of the box. My goal was to spend under $500 for this build and assemble an e-bike with a 1000-watt rear hub motor. Now, I considered buying an off-the-shelf 250-watt e-bike for like $600–700, but since I'm 6'3", 220 pounds, that's not enough power, and the frames were too small. So being retired, which means I'm usually bored all the time, I decided to build it myself. I considered buying a used mountain bike for this project, but then decided to start with a brand new bike instead, as I wanted certain basic features like disc brakes, front suspension, sturdy frame, 21 speeds, like that. I ended up buying this 26-inch Schwinn Sidewinder Mountain Bike from Walmart for $149 delivered. So I had the basic bike. Now what I needed was the motor kit. I chose the Voilamart 1000-watt conversion kit basically because of the price and the reviews that I read. It comes with everything you need to do the conversion except the battery, which we'll discuss a little later. It has two power settings, which I really like, the 750-watt, what I call cruise mode setting, and the 1000-watt warp speed setting, which we'll detail later. Now, when you get the package and open the box, the first thing you'll notice is you'll see the rim and the motor combo, and you'll see a tire in there and a tube. You're not going to want to use those. You've got a really perfectly good tire and tube on the back of the mountain bike, so use that instead because it's the correct size and it fits perfectly. Okay, so let's talk about how this kit installed. I really recommend this bike if you're going to start from scratch. I don't think you can do better. The kit installed like it was made for the bike. There was none of this gluing things on or using hose clamps or any of that foolishness. So it really went together well, and I was really happy with the way it turned out. So let's talk about a couple of things from the kit. You're going to have to use their brake levers. You'll have to take the old brake levers off and install these because they have a switch inside that disconnects the motor when you're braking. That's a safety feature you really don't want to do without. If your bike has twist shifters, you can leave the front derailleur shifter in place. It's fine, but the rear derailleur shifter is going to have to be replaced with a thumb shifter, and because you're going to end up with the twist throttle and you're going to end up with battery monitors. It comes with the kit, so that's a useful thing to have. Okay, moving down, you got the pass system or the pedal assist system. Okay, now this guy goes on pretty easy. You need a puller to get the crank off, the crank arm. That slides off, and then there's just a nut there. You undo the nut and slide on the sensor, put the nut back on, and then you put the magnetic disc on. Now here's a hint. When you put that magnetic disc on, you'll find it's too tight. Okay, and there's little plastic fingers in the inside of it. You're going to have to grind those a little bit, and I mean a little bit at a time. If you take too much off, it'll spin on the shaft and you've ruined it. It's useless. And speaking of useless, this system is supposed to add power when you're pedaling, so you don't use the twist grip throttle. This particular one, when you engage it, anytime you start to pedal, you get 100% power right now. It's like a toggle switch. And there's really nothing you can do for it to mitigate it unless you buy one of the aftermarket computers that sits up on your handlebars. Then you can adjust what they call the pass system from like 1 to 5. What I ended up doing was just disconnecting it back here at the controller, and twist throttle works fine. You can add it in whatever increment you want for whatever hill you're climbing. It works perfect without it. But for those people who want it, you'll have to deal with it aftermarket. The other thing I was trying to do with this bike is to hide all the wires and bags and things that you'll see on a lot of bikes. You got bags hanging from the frame, hanging from the handlebars. I just didn't like that look. It wasn't clean enough. So what I ended up doing is I found this little rack, an aftermarket, I think on eBay or something, for like 15 bucks. And then I bought a little gear bag, and I managed to put everything in the gear bag. I got my battery down in there, I got the controller in there, I got all the wiring in there, and it just hides the whole thing, and it just makes for a better installation. You don't have things hanging all over the bike. The other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to install, let me pull it out here, is an on-off switch with an automotive fuse. And you've got to run about a 20 amp fuse with this system. And when you're wiring this thing up, make sure you use like about a 14 gauge wire. That'd be the smallest wire I'd recommend. 12 would even be better, because you try to use smaller wiring and you restrict the flow to the motor and to the controller, and you won't be happy with it. It makes a big difference. I did it wrong first, and when I switched to the bigger wiring, boy, what a difference it made. So that's a safety thing. The other thing is, if you try and plug the controller and the battery together without a switch in the circuit, you get an arc you can weld with. So I didn't like that either. I thought that's just trouble waiting to happen. So you put this switch in line, and when you do, make sure the switch is off before you make the connections. And then you've also got the extra safety of the switch and the fuse in the circuit. The next thing is the battery. Don't skimp on the battery. This system takes, I would say, a minimum of 1400 amp hour battery, and it's a 48 volt system, this particular one that comes from Voilamart, or Voilamart, I guess it is, sorry. And I've been really happy with this battery. I've been riding it, and the battery monitor still tells me it's not dropping. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put an actual monitor on there so I can read the voltage rather than just do the bars. But spend the extra money and get the battery. You could go online, you can find these batteries for, I think I paid like $110 for this particular one. It did come from China. I did have to wait for it, but it's worth the wait, believe me. You know, and if you don't want to wait, it's going to cost you about a third more to find a U.S. supplier that's got one in stock. So, but get the extra battery, spend the money, you'll be really happy that you did. And I've been watching online about controllers and guys doing different things to controllers, beefing up the circuit boards, those kind of things, and adding different components to it. I don't think you're going to need to do it with this one. I mean, it's been dragging me up and down hills full bore on the 1000 watt setting, which we'll talk about in a second, and I haven't had a bit of problem with it. Okay, back to the settings. Like I said earlier, it has a 750 watt setting. It comes from the factory that way. All it is like a blue wire back here. It's even got a wire for a light if you want to put a light on your bike. But anyway, that wire comes connected from the factory, and that limits it to 750 watts, which is fine for, you know, most people, I think, especially if you weigh less than I do. You weigh 40, 50 pounds less than I do. That bike's really going to perform with the 750 watt setting, and it's going to not drain your battery as fast. For those of you speed guys, if you like to go really fast, really quick, then you want to unplug that wire and hold on tight, because this thing is a rocket ship. I couldn't believe the difference between the 750 and the 1000 watt setting. I was going on flat ground up to 30 miles an hour like you couldn't believe, and it was still pulling. So it got a little scary for a bicycle. This thing doesn't fit me perfectly because of my size, and I was really impressed at how fast it went. I've raced a lot of motorcycles. They probably weren't as fast as this. So anyway, overall, I'm really, really happy with it. I'm glad I did it. I may build something that fits my frame a little better, bigger wheels. I know they make bigger kits out there with larger wheels. I don't know if I need any more power, but I can't imagine putting 1,500 watts or 2,000 on a bicycle. I think you're in the danger zone then. So anyway, I hope this helps out if you decide to build one of these. Try to answer any questions. So good luck, and hope to see you out there.